Danielle and I'm in Puerto Esconditos right now. I'm in Mexico right now, visiting Danielle, and we've been doing some UFO watching. And these are this is me watching. This is me recording the kind of UFOs that we've seen so far, except for that I'm missing a couple. I'm missing
the skip one.
The skip one, yeah, the skip.
That one was just like a little light skipping across sky. Like
it was, yeah. Like imagine if you were skipping a rock and it was like boom, 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 boom. This was like that with a little light, but it was too big to be like a firefly, and it was too small to be.
Well, it was too far away.
Yeah, it was too far. How high did you think it was? Below the clouds.
It was below the clouds, but like at cloud level, I felt.
Yeah, I felt like it was around cloud level.
It was pretty high up. Yeah.
It was on the new moon.
Right. We should talk about all of our UFO experiences, since we might as well dive into that.
Let's just dive into that because we're talking about that now. So, okay. A couple years, we met 3 years ago, not too far from here, in like a town like an hour from here called Munzunte. And while we were there, there was like a couple of people who were talking. Like, first of all, I saw a UFO that during that 3 years ago there, and she saw one too. But like, we didn't really talk about that at the time. But since we've come together and we heard other people in our group of people that we met who also saw UFOs during that 2-week period.
Independently.
Everybody independently of each other. And everybody had different UFO experiences. So the one I heard that was super impressive was there was some dude with some weird name that I can't say. It was like Basha or something. I can't remember his name. Sorry if this guy ever ends up watching this. But start with a B. He was saying that him and a couple other people were on the beach at night, like around like 8 or 9 p.m. And like the stars were out and there was some clouds or whatever. And he said this big black mass, he says it was bigger than a football field. He said it was a ship, but it didn't have any lights on. It was just like turned off, and it just like hugged the coastline and went like kind of, he said it was fast but slow at the same time, meaning like the whole thing probably happened within a minute, but at the same time it was
steady.
It was like steady, and it just like, and it went all right along the coastline and kept on going. And I was like, well, how did you know it was there? And he's like, well, it was night, but it wasn't that. I mean, like, this was like matte, perfect black, and it was like covering.
Sorry, people. Oops. Sorry.
He's like, it was more than, that was our mic mishap. It was more than just like a cloud or something. It was like a black mass. Like, it was an actual ship. You could still see it. And I was like, oh, that's interesting.
And he wasn't by himself though, right?
No, but the other thing is that there was these 2 like French Canadian people that were with him that also saw it, and they were trying to explain it to me. They had some thick accents. I didn't really know exactly what they were saying. That was the guy who explained it best to me. But yeah, so like at least 3 of them saw that UFO at that time, and I was like, ooh.
Cool.
Yeah. And then what did you see?
So when I first got there, I got there like 5-6 o'clock in the morning, and I was waiting for my hotel to let me check in, and I just went to the beach and sat down, and I was watching the moon, and there was a meteor shower. It was definitely a lot of shooting stars happening, but I just saw a very small light. So I was watching it. It was just slowly moving, and I assumed that, I was thinking it was an airplane, or thinking maybe it was a satellite. But the weird thing is, it just went into the moon, into the light of the moon, and never passed it. It never exited. It was like I was waiting and waiting to see it go out the other side, and it never did. So that was all I saw, was a tiny light. At that time, that's all I saw.
Well, at that time, this UFO experiences that I had is that me and this other woman, this lady named Brenda, were staying in this house, and they had a patio, like an open air patio with some furniture or whatever. So I don't know, it was like 2 a.m. or something. One night we decided to just like look at not necessarily for UFOs, but for like shooting stars or whatever, just stargazing. And we saw, within the span of maybe like 5 minutes, I don't know exactly how many, but I personally saw like 3 or 4, and she saw, I think we may have saw 1 or 2 at the same time. But what we were seeing was like shooting stars that were doing like zigzags. Like it would look like a shooting star, but it would zigzag. And like, so for instance, it was as high as a shooting star would be, but it was a light that was doing erratic movements. And we'd be like, holy cow, did you see that? What was that? Like, that's, a UFO doesn't do like a little.
So you can see the trail of it?
You can see the trail of it just for like a second. Just same as how a shooting star would, but the thing would be going like super fast. Like they were being really erratic. And it happened like, once every 2 minutes for a span of like, I don't know, 5-6 minutes or something.
That's weird.
Yeah.
I never heard anything like that before.
And yeah, so we both kind of were like, well, that's interesting. So anyway, I sort of had it in my head that, okay, this is kind of a hot spot for UFOs then. Obviously there's some activity. I always think that there's activity around water.
And that was one of the reasons I wanted to move to Puerto Escondido in the first place. I thought, I want to be closer to the water because it'll be darker and then I could see the sky better and watch UFOs. So that's what brought me here.
So that was like our setup of like why we thought it would be a good place to do some UFO searching. Well, anyway, so then I got that, it's what it's called. Let me see. It's called ET Contact or something. It's an app. What is it? ET Contact, and it's a tool app. It's from that Dr. Stephen Greer. He did that Contact, a CE5 movie. And anyway, he has an app. You have to pay like, I think it's like $5 or something. And there's these tones. This is the crop circle tone. And it's basically, it's a sound that was recorded within a crop circles, and then they have it on a loop and slowed down and stuff. So it sounds like, anyway, so what me and Danielle do, we both love crop circles. What can we say? We love the crop circles. So we play this kind of thing while we're just shooting.
Stargazing.
Yeah. Talking about whatever, stargazing. And we also there's some meditations. There's a couple of different tones you can play, even though our most success has been with the crop circle tone.
Yeah.
And we both had some crazy visualizations on the structure of the universe meditation that he has on here. Anyway, it's good stuff. So our first UFO that we saw, I still think was the best one.
I think so too.
So we saw a triangle craft like this with 3 lights, and it was not
3 white lights.
3 white lights, but they weren't necessarily turned on. It's almost like the air or like the light pollution caught them. It's almost like the ship it was being kind of incognito. Yeah.
It was an equilateral triangle.
Total equilateral triangle. I mean, the lights were on, but they weren't like super bright.
Yes, at each point. They were on at each point.
Like they weren't as bright as the stars, is I guess what my point is. Yeah.
That's true.
And they were kind of like a muted, like, that's why at first we were like, are those birds? But no, there was like an equilateral triangle, and there was a blackness on the other.
Yeah, there was blackness in it.
Within the triangle. The frame of the triangle was black. And it went steady to like this one cloud, and then it kind of like turned and did a turn and then went like towards the ocean. And I was like, that's a UFO. It's a UFO. Oh my God, it's a UFO. She's like, I think it's a UFO. It's a UFO. Yeah, we're looking at that. Yeah.
It was definitely strange.
Super UFO. Then not too long afterwards, even higher in the sky, we saw another triangle craft. And this time the triangle craft didn't have, I did it in pencil, so it's really not amaze balls. Maybe I can take that. But that one also was, there wasn't individual lights on it. It was just the mass of the triangle.
Yeah, true. And also that one didn't seem to be equilateral, or at least from our
viewpoint.
Yeah.
It was like an isosceles.
Yes, I would say it was
an isosceles, and it was higher and solid. Then we saw these weird series of flashes. Like
that was weird.
Flash
and
of
I've seen them since then.
We saw them another night when we did UFO searching at like 5 a.m. So, how would you describe that? It's almost like
it was just a light. It was like, I think somebody turned on and turned off a light. It was just bing, bing, but it never moved.
We thought like, okay, well, it's going to be a plane. It's going to like, you're going to see move. A plane like going here.
Right.
It would be like in the same area. There would be a flash. Like I only ever saw it 3 times was the most I saw.
Yeah, that's how many times I saw it. It was in the same spot, like dink, turn on, turn off, dink, turn on to, like it was almost like a Morse code. I was waiting to think, are they going to be a bunch of them, or are they going to be exactly the same tempo between each beat? You know, I was like waiting for a longer message kind of thing, but that's all we got.
And then,
but then when we saw it at 5 o'clock in the morning, again, it was in the same place.
Same area. Yeah, same area in the
yeah.
sky. So, which again was directly over the ocean.
Yeah, that's true. And if it was right over the sky, it was at a different time. So it wouldn't have been the same star alignment at that time. It would have been, it was more like a location to the ocean.
That's why I really do think there is associations with UFOs in the ocean or water. And then the other thing, after we did our structure of the universe thing, like I opened my eyes and I saw like this white, like formed cloud that for me kind of looked like a dragon with a lion head for a second. And I was like, holy cow. And I got up and I started looking at it and followed it. And Danielle saw the tail end of it. But the thing is that right after that, we saw a couple of flocks of birds that looked quite similar to the same flight pattern that was going. So I can't 100% write that off as that not being a flock of birds, even though it was different than the flock of birds in that I felt it was more like when it was first right by where I opened my eyes after we were meditating, it was very close for me to see. And it looked like it was one mass, like it was the size of a lion. Like that's what I would say. And it was like a building away from us. And so it wasn't that far. And it was like a white like cloud.
Floaty. It was
like a floaty thing. So I don't know what the heck that was, but it had form, but it was still like a floaty thing. And it moved in a circle around. I don't know. That was also weird.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That one was more questionable, but it was
more
so
questionable, but because it wasn't really like, oh, here's a ship. It was more like, I don't even know what to describe what I saw.
Yeah.
It was like a weird, did I see a ghost dragon?
Yeah.
Or like, I don't know.
That was more like an entity type of thing.
Like an entity. Yeah, that was a weird thing. So yeah, you know,
those have been our UFO experiences up until now, but I do expect
we're going to see more because every time we've gone out, we've seen something.
Yeah.
Like, you know, because we're doing meditations, we're like saying like, please come. We're like trying to open ourselves up to like benevolent, like good experiences with that which we don't understand. And that's something we've also talked about, like our fears about
actually encountering something.
Like, besides just for both of us, I think at this point, like a UFO is like, cool, but I expect that it's going to happen.
Right.
Like,
it doesn't surprise
me. It doesn't
me.
surprise.
Although I feel like it would surprise me if it came closer and I could see it better, because everything I do see is pretty far away.
Well, that triangle did surprise me.
The triangle was cool. And I really feel that one was the most, like, that was definitely something.
Like undeniable.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel that we could seriously say that. And the weird thing is, right after that, like the next day or 2 days later, we started watching that Linda Moulton Howe thing, and she talked about the exact same triangle.
Well, actually,
and she showed a picture of it, and it was exactly like what we saw.
It was Linda Moulton Howe, but it was on a documentary that was called Among Us 2.
Among Us 2, right.
They're Among Us.
That's
or
true.
Something. It was on Gaia.
Yeah.
E.T.'s Among Us.
E.T.'s Among Us.
And E.T.'s Among Us 2.
Part 2.
Yeah, like that was the exact ship that we saw.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Which that sometimes makes me feel like, okay, well, that might be advanced military.
Right. It could be. It's still unidentified.
It's still not an identified flying object.
It wasn't an airplane.
So.
And and I did look it up after to see if there were if there was any information about this triangle, and I did see that possibly it was military, but who knows? Anyway,
this should give us some color.
Yeah, these are pretty. These are from Oaxaca style.
Yeah, but okay, so like when you're, I think it's just like, I think the reason that we are having some success with seeing UFOs, which I think you probably could do in a lot of places. Like, I don't think this is exclusive to just where we're at. But I feel like it's because we've kind of released a lot of fear around them.
Yeah, we're ready to see more.
Yeah, like ready for
Yeah. I think that you have to get into the vibrational state of it too. And it would be helpful for, like, I know for myself to actually meditate and feel more peaceful before I start looking for it, where I don't feel like anxious or having too much conversation that's not related, but really focusing on that and being in that vibe.
Well, the night that we saw like 3 or 4 of them was, we did do a meditation.
Well, we did the
before,
meditation,
yeah.
exactly, and we were really into the meditation.
And we were really into it. And
Yeah.
then the other nights we've just sort of been playing crop circle sounds, being like,
Just-
so hey, what
right,
about these
like-
masks, or
Yeah,
you know, like
shooting
whatever.
the shit while we're
Yeah,
looking
exactly.
for it.
Which is fun, but you know,
Yeah.
and we still see stuff.
Yeah, but I
But-
feel like the better stuff would be when you're in a better frame of mind.
Yeah. And I mean, like when we went to bioluminescence, that was like, that was magical. It was like being a playground. Like for me, it was, I was in a super high state of like
Yeah.
like I was like a 2-year-old kid
It's
and
like
in
watching-
a
seeing the
Play-Doh
film
shop or something.
bioluminescence.
Yeah, it was maze balls. And so I was like on a super high. So I felt like that was really easy to connect with.
Yeah, and there's no moon. The Milky Way was really easy to see. That was a nice night.
Yeah.
And then it started like lightning though and thundering.
Lightning's been nice too.
Yeah, the lightning has been nice.
If you want to see UFOs, you have to go outside and look for them.
Yeah,
Like that's, well, I mean, most people, I guess some people are lucky enough for something else to, you know.
well, sometimes it just happens where people are driving along and they see something and they're not looking for it at all. There's a lot of that actually, because they're around.
They are around. And like, in some weird way, I kind of feel like either they're just around and we happen to be like focusing so we see them,
Right.
or we're opening ourselves into another frequency that we can see them in.
That's right. Those are the two things too. My other thought was like, I'm like, do they know that we're like calling them? Like, you know
I
what
feel
mean?
like they have to know.
Some of them might be, but I think just the vibration is more accurate. Like you being it, opening up that like.
Yeah,
that-
it's almost like it's almost like you're letting your guard down to where you can first, like some glimpse of some time, see a dimension that's always there.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It always exists.
Like
It's
maybe
just
they're
that-
going about their normal highway day
Right.
and they don't really care, but
That's
you know,
right.
we just for some reason can see through the cloak.
Yes. Oh, and well, this is not related to us, but didn't you have a flight attendant friend that sent you a picture recently?
Oh, I totally did. Yeah. This one was cool. She said that the I guess you would call them the ships, first of all, I'm like the UFO queen of flight attendant world. Like they all know I'm into it. So like when they have experiences, they all like secretly come and confide their stuff to me.
Nikki makes it known. Wouldn't you want to
Yeah, like
flight attendant?
that's like one of the main things I say to them. I'll be like,
I'm like, oh good, this flight attendant is going to look for UFOs for us. Excellent.
right. I mean, like, I mean, her name's also Danielle, so it's hard because I have like a million things with you in here. So I'm like, wait.
Yeah. Well, she said it was a pretty impressive picture she sent. And maybe you
Yeah,
can
she
ask
did.
if you can,
And she said, she
upload that.
claims that, so this was her picture. So she claims that these 3 crafts, I hope that
Can you
this
zoom in on that? Like, you know,
I can probably
expand it
add the picture
faster?
to the
Yeah.
actual thing. Well, she claims that these 3 ships followed the airplane for, let me read. She said, yes, I took it flying over Nevada. And I said, are you sure it's not solar panels? And she's like, what did she say? She says, they followed us for like 20 minutes. Then poof, gone. Yeah, she says, I feel like it was definitely a message for me. So
cool.
there you go. So that's
And
pretty
also,
cool.
you said, oh wait, was this you or her that asked to go into a flight cabin? No, that was you. Another time.
Oh yeah, or no, she asked to go, and then they said like we're busy right now.
Yeah. So who knows?
So who knows? Yeah, but I mean, I know a lot of flight attendants and pilots that like when we go down to drinks, they'll talk about what they've seen, but you know,
Yeah. Right.
it's very bizarrely taboo, and I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Like I've
And
never
well,
been sworn in on a reason why it should be taboo, but
you never
apparently,
signed a non-disclosure agreement
exactly.
or something. But at the same time, there's no evidence of it. No one took any pictures, so it's just hearsay, or at least okay, people have had experiences, which I don't doubt. But I'm just
on
saying.
our Instagram. I put a UFO that I saw. I filmed it from the plane.
Oh, I don't remember that.
It's I mean, it's the other thing is like our videos. It's like everybody's like, well, you need to take a video of it. You take a video of it. It's like, yeah, you can take a video of. Like, we didn't even try to film our stuff. One, it was dark. Two, it was like,
it wouldn't have come out.
Well, it's not going to come out. Like,
And
especially
also,
that triangle
The
wouldn't
triangle
come out. It
was
was
so
so
far away.
dark.
And you're just so into it in the moment, unless if it's really there for a while.
Plus, we're using our phone to play crop circle sounds on. So it's like, I don't want to like, okay, like end that.
Yeah,
And
like you're messing around with time and missing good viewing time of yourself.
Because I told my mom about the UFOs, and she's like, why did you film that, Nikki? No one's going to believe you. You need to film that. And I was like, it's not for other people. Like, I'm past the point of caring whether you believe in them or not.
Right, exactly. I'm not trying to convince you. I'm just
I'm
saying
not trying to
like,
convince you.
what
It's
I
like,
saw.
this is just a fun thing I saw. It's like
Right.
an eyewitness account. You can take it or leave it. That's your prerogative.
Well,
like,
it would be nice if you guys want to write in and write about your experiences. Have you ever seen something strange like a UFO? And what would make you think that it really was? You know, because we all doubt ourselves too. We're like, well, maybe it's just a plane.
we right after we see it, we're like, are you sure that wasn't?
Yeah, like we went through all the other possibilities, which it could have been, but in the end, I feel that one triangle one was definitely something.
Well, I feel like all of them were definitely something, but it's like at the same time you have to, like it's like the level of fantasticness or whatever is has to be weighed in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, like those little blinking lights, that was strange too. Why would there just be little blinking lights out in the sky? Was that a satellite? That
yeah, and then remember
maybe.
we saw like at the 5 a.m. one like yesterday or whatever, we saw like we thought it was like a satellite, but then it did a couple of big flashes.
That was weird
That
too.
was a weird one too. We were like, wait, okay, so we're looking at it. Just looks like how normal satellites look, like where there's super
little dot,
like
straight line,
like a star going. But it did a couple of like really big flashes,
really
and like
bright.
bigger than like a twinkle. It was like
no, it was
they
very
were big
bright.
flashes. Like they were like it was like the little satellite was blowing up or something. We don't know.
It was like, yeah, or when you have those adjustable lights in your house, like the like the what are they called, the hat lights, and then all of a sudden you put it on like the dimmer switch, and then like the dimmer just went way up and then went back down to dim, and way up, back down, but way up.
And we were kind of like, that is not a characteristic that I know of satellites to do.
Right.
So that's maybe they do.
And that one also we couldn't. Was that the one, or there was another one that we weren't sure if it was flying actually in a straight line?
Oh, that was another one that we weren't sure if it was a plane or not.
Yeah.
But it kind of did like a weird U-y thing.
Yeah. So that could have been a plane. We don't know. There are a couple of ones.
There's a couple ones that were like, we saw stuff and we were like, I mean, it's a light moving like a plane would move. It's not blinking. There's no blinkingness on it, but who knows if it's just one of those little Cessna planes or
Right.
You don't really know. I mean, they're interesting, but it's not like, oh, there's a giant triangle right above us. You know, It's not quite that obvious.
No,
So.
right.
So we don't even necessarily count all that. But if you want to just talk about strange things we see in the sky, every night that we try.
Yes.
For sure. So anyway, I highly recommend you guys go start looking.
Stargazing as much as you can. Find a dark place. And,
COVID's a good time to, well, it won't always be COVID, but.
Yeah.
This
Well,
too
anywhere
shall
that's
pass.
dark, really, because there's so much light pollution.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the thing.